Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strangeness of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're talking to a great guy, Brandon. He is the founder of Above and Below Paranormal up in the New England states, up in Maryland, up in that area. And it's really cool because their team kind of specializes in private investigations and have been doing lots of that stuff to help people. So love talking to people like him just because he's out there doing good things in the paranormal world. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey, Brandon, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. I wanted to have you on, so I kind of got to know you through buddy John Curley. He's a good friend of the show as well. Everybody should know if they watch everything I do. We do live stream stuff together. And you're up in the kind of the area he is up in Maryland. He's in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, but you're not too far from him.
Yeah, it's about an hour and 15 minutes, so pretty close.
So kind of the same area of the country and kind of same stomping grounds with Gettysburg and all those places. So you're the founder of Above and Below Paranormal, but what got you interested in the paranormal to begin with?
I always kind of believed. I never had a really big experience. I know a lot of people say they had an experience 7, 8, all that. I never really had anything that stood out. I just always kind of believed, I just always had a feeling and always had a pretty good intuition about stuff. And then I would say probably right around when Ghost Hunters came out, I kind of started to really follow it and get into it and start researching it and just looking at different things in a different perspective, actually trying to explain these things. For instance, you hear a knock. Well, is it a pipe banging? Is it not? Go look. Right. Things like that. So it just kind of progressed. And then when I turned 18, I had a really, really cool but weird experience. Long story short, 3 weeks to the day after I graduated high school, my grandmother passed away. And I went and saw her at the hospital, the night she passed. I came home and just like everyone else, I couldn't sleep, it's hard, my grandmother's tattooed on my back. She was my person. She was one of my people and super close. And I'm just laying in bed, pitch black. I don't want the TV on. I don't want the sound. You know what I mean? I'm depressed. I don't want to hear shit.
Right, right.
So I'm just laying there and I just, at the foot of my bed at the time, she just appeared, man. Had a glow, a whitish, bluish glow. And she just looked at me. She gave me this grin. The way I interpreted was she was okay. You know what I mean? That's the way I felt. I felt nothing but positive energy and happiness. And as soon as she came, I saw the grin. She was gone just like that. And they went right back to a pitch black room. And that was the experience. I'm because, I grew up Catholic, so it's I don't want to say hit or miss with the paranormal, but you know what I mean? Some people aren't so accepting. So I was I need to know more. So then I joined a team. And then I just been nonstop since COVID hit. My old team shut down and I got 2 calls from family friends that needed help. And I said, hey, I called a couple friends and said, why don't we start a team and take on these cases? And that was basically been the past, and almost 3 years coming up, we've been going. So
So were you surrounded by family who were open to the paranormal as well? Because I know a lot of kids, I've talked about this a lot on the show. I think a lot of kids are taught out of the paranormal, and then when we get older, I was kind of, my family talked about having experiences at different places when they were kids or growing up or whatever, and my grandparents too. So were you kind of in that environment where your parents kind of believed and didn't kind of talk you out of it?
So my parents are my parents are divorced, but there's 2 completely different sides of the spectrum. So my mom was super Catholic, and was we don't talk about it. I don't want to hear about it, more kind of scared, so to speak, type of side. My dad is very, I don't want to say, I guess, analytical, very, skeptic, very set in his ways. And he's there's always a reason for something.
Yeah.
But that's also my dad as a elevator mechanic and, deals with electricity and basically can build a circuit board from the ground up, you know? So like he always thinks there's a reason for everything. So he's always supported me and said, like, if you believe it, you know, go find out, like, go find your own answers. You know, they're both really supportive, just in two different ways. My mom's, I don't want to know. My dad's like, hey, let me know and let's see if we can find a reasoning for it.
So,
yeah. I get both ways.
Out of all the religions, I would think that Catholicism would be the more supportive of the supernatural paranormal because of all the angels and demon stuff and, you know, all of those.
I always make a joke because we had at one point we had a woman on the team, and I won't say her name, but she was like super religious, and you know she would always bring up like the Holy Spirit and all that, and I was like, don't you think a Holy Spirit is just another word for ghost or spirit?
Right.
Or like, you know what I mean? Like people use ghost and spirit as interchangeable.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you want to call it, you know, that's on you. But a lot of people interchange them. So if you say Holy Spirit, don't you think it just means a ghost?
Right. Yeah. Well, I grew up in the Bible Belt here, where it's mainly Baptist and Church of Christ, and we have it now. It's a bigger population of Catholics, but growing up, in small town, that's what you get, and everything is demonic to them. So anything paranormal, supernatural in that realm, ghost, they don't believe in it. It's demonic. It's a demon. If you got a ghost in your house, it's a demon. You need to have the priest come. So that's what I grew up. I didn't grow up. I find if there is a religion that I would ever believe in, because I'm agnostic, I would want it to be Catholicism, because the whole angels and demons and like the whole, like, because I love the movie Constantine, and you know, so like
so do I. It's a good one.
And so I'd want that to be the true, you know, if there is a God and a devil, that would be the what's going on behind the scenes, you know, supernatural wise. But no, I always find it interesting to see how people grew up, because like I said, you get so many kids that are taught out of it that maybe have an imaginary friend that's not so imaginary, things like that, or have experiences when they're younger. But like you said, a lot of us do have experiences when we're younger. My first experience was when I was 8, which is an interesting age range to have one. But yeah, it's interesting. I was always the weird kid who was looking for the supernatural books at the book fair and things like that as well, going to the library and seeking out all that stuff before the internet. And I'm a little older than you, so I was around before. I started investigating before Ghost Hunters and the TV shows. But
it started probably right when I was like late elementary, early middle school, because I'm 31. So do the math. I think it came out like 2002, something like that. So it was about 10, give or take.
Yeah, I've got 10 years on you. I'm 41, so. But do y'all focus on mainly residential cases, like private cases, or do you do kind of a mix of public and private places?
So it started as a lot of residentials. We always talked about doing publics because something I believe in is history. And I'm a firm believer in that if you don't help keep history alive, somebody will come in and demo the building, right? Like if you didn't buy the Night House, it could have turned into an apartment complex. You don't know.
Right.
So, you know, I try to do my part. All the proceeds go back to the location. We don't make anything. The only thing I tell the owners is, hey, if we host a public ghost hunt, I want, you know, let's just say $60. We're just going to buy pizzas, and that way the guests can have dinner. Everybody has a good time, and we investigate. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only, like, fee that I take, is just so, hey, help me take $60. We'll do pizza. You know what I mean? That's about it. Like I said, everything else 100% goes back. Like, I don't want anything, because I want you to keep your doors open, because I want to come and investigate your place.
Right.
I want the history to be told. You know, I had a good history teacher that taught me. It was probably 7th grade, and he said, "You learn history, so it's never forgotten."
Right.
And I'm a firm believer in that. Always have been.
Yeah, and I think that's the misnomer, especially with the paranormal shows, is that most of us, our big thing is the history part of it. And I always tell everybody 80% of what we do is history. The 20% is trying to connect to that history, you know, through the paranormal. And that's what I'm trying to do with the Night House. As well, is not just focus on the paranormal stuff. That helps, you know, keep the location alive and help us fix the place up and all that. But it's about keeping that history alive and telling that history. And like you said, somebody might come along and just torn it down and built, you know, houses or something, and that history is lost. Especially a lot of these places, you know, with insane asylums and things like that. A lot of these places, like Pennhurst, is somewhere that y'all are familiar with. Horrible things happen there, And we don't need to tear a place like that down. We need to keep telling that story so that doesn't happen again. Because, you know.
And the first time I went there, I went like, it was either 2016. It had to be 2016 because I had my daughter in 2017. So about 2016 we went, and they had, I think, 14 buildings, and now they're down to like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So it's weird to see it like so shrunk since I went. You know, they got rid of like the dining hall building and stuff like that. It's crazy. And, you know, they host these Paracons and all that, and it helps. You know, they have power in some of these buildings, which they never had before. Yeah. So that's cool and all. But at the same time, you know, like you said, you hate to see that building torn down.
Yeah. And I can imagine what a place like that would cost, you know, with that many buildings and things, you know, and that big a property to keep up. You know, that's a lot of manpower and things to mow and, you know, keep nature from taking it back over and also keep the buildings from falling down and falling in. And
yeah. And the state of Pennsylvania definitely doesn't help.
Yeah.
They're looking for every reason to tear it down and turn it into a housing development. So,
right.
I give the owners props because I'm sure they deal with a lot of shit that I don't have to deal with.
Yeah. Well, the government would like to forget what happened there because it's a bad mark on them, you know. But yeah, the history is so important at these locations, and like you said, you know, we need to learn from it and do better moving on. But what kind of equipment do y'all use? I know you seem to be like a skeptic, kind of like I am, looking for, you know, the real reasons and things instead of just buying into everything. So, what kind of equipment do you like to use?
Yeah, so you know, over the years, I think you learn. I'm sure, Eric, there's stuff you use, you know, back 20 years ago, let's say when you started to now, you're like, I would never use that equipment.
Yeah.
I was kind of the same way, you know. I used to believe in the flashlights and stuff like that, and then I found out they're BS. You know. I've never been a big fan of the spirit box, so we have one. I used it just because I wanted to try the Estes, because like everybody was talking about it. But stuff we really use is camera system, either DVR. We have a wired, wireless, you know, so stuff like that. I'm trying to look up. I have all the cases above me. We use EMF meters more for sweeps than communication because I think they can throw off false positives.
Yeah.
But definitely, you know, it's good to have an idea of, hey, there's a, you know, circuit board right there, so good to check out ahead of time. But really, I'm more old school, man. I really am. A lot of voice recorders and a lot of video. That's pretty much what I stick with here and there. And then I have an EDI that I like because I like having a data logger and see if there's any comparison where I can try to back it up scientifically. I think it's a cool idea. So
yeah, if you notice a temperature change or barometric pressure or anything like that at the same time, you get EDP. Yeah, I wish EDIs were a lot more accessible. Like REM, you know, fucking REM pods and EMF meters are so accessible and cheap. We need somebody to come along to make an EDI that is that accessible because, like you said, that's actual scientific data. Yeah. To where, you know, REM pods and EMF detectors are fallible.
Yeah, and the EDI, the people that made it have stopped making it. I emailed them and reached out. They said they just had so many backlog orders that they were just never going to catch up, basically. So,
wow.
Now I do have a friend that makes equipment and he's tried to make his own version. He's in the middle with his brother's engineer and they're trying to make one. So if they do, I'll let you know, but I don't know how it's going to work. I'm not sure yet. So
yeah, my buddy Austin that I filmed with and investigate with, he was trying to find one. He had to end up buying a guy's whole kit off of eBay because the guy wanted to sell everything, all of his, you know, EMF meters and all that stuff. So Austin had to end up paying this guy like $800 for all of it because he wouldn't just sell him the EDI just so he could get one, you know?
Yeah, I bought one right before they shut down. Like I got really lucky, and I actually was trying to buy like 2 or 3, and they're like, "Yeah, we only have one left." I was like, "Okay, deal."
Yeah,
like I'm taking it. So
yeah, I'm not a big gadget guy either, but that's one that I'd love to have one for sure. I'm with you. Like I'm video audio. I want to see it. You know,
I just feel like it's tried and true, you know, like it is what it is. You know, it's really hard when it's just you. Let's just say you in the night house. You're there alone, and all of a sudden you hear "Hello, Eric," and you know no one's around. And it's like, how do you dispute that?
Yeah,
you know, it's harder to dispute. So whereas like REM pods, you can set off with walkies, they're K2s even.
Yeah,
you know, just there's 100 things you can set off all these other equipments with. So,
right. Yeah, and all these people with these apps, they drive me crazy. I see people every day. I just saw somebody on a group earlier asking what phone app does anybody recommend, and I just wanted to put on there none, but they won't listen, and they think, you know, that you're hating on them if you say don't trust those apps.
Yeah, that's something I feel like has been lost in the paranormal community. Now, I started when I was like 16, so a little bit before 18. I went on my first investigation. And, being 31 now, I feel like, yeah, I got a good amount of experience. I wouldn't say I'm no expert or anything,
Right.
but I've learned. I've made the mistakes. And I feel like when I was younger, I would listen to people like, John, for instance, who has a little bit more experience, say, hey, I've tried this. You really can't get good evidence with that, and debunked. And that's basically what John will explain to you.
Yeah.
Give you the reasons why. So I try to do the same thing, and they're like, shut up, you're just older, you don't understand. Like, yeah, maybe a little bit older, but I'm trying to save you the embarrassment. Like, some of these people are like, I want to be taken really serious. Well, you can't use a phone app or a spirit box or some of these other things and say, I am 100% serious. Because you're not.
Yeah, and I don't understand why people won't take the criticism. The biggest thing right now I see also is the lens flare stuff. And when you say it's a lens flare, they'll tell you, no, that's an angel or it's this or that. And I'm like, no, it's it's a lens flare. And people, you'll have photographers telling them the same thing, and they just don't want to listen. And I understand wanting that connection, with it to be your grandparent or your parent or whoever passed away, like wanting that connection. But making everything paranormal is not going to help anything.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing about residential cases. Now, I don't know how many you've done, but I've gone in and I always interview people, and you go in and they're like, look at this picture I taken. I think it's my grandfather. And then, like you said, you got to tell them like, hey man, that's just a lens flare. You like crush their dreams. And it's like, I'm not trying to crush your dreams. You called me in and I just want to be real. Like, I'm being realistic. Like, I want you to know, like, I'm not here to toot your horn. Like, I'm here to tell you the truth.
Right. I've done quite a few residential cases, and one reason that I never really got into doing them heavy is because I worked in medicine for 20 years. So I dealt with mental health on the ambulance and in the ER. And I don't want to deal with that in somebody's home. like I did that on the ambulance where I'd have to deal with them in their home. And I don't want to try to convince somebody who's having mental health issues that it's not paranormal. It's not ghost. It's, it's your brain. It's, and I've had a couple of cases where the people didn't want to listen. They want to listen to the Psychic Friends Network because their mom's friend was a psychic, but yet their husband was a gamer. So their Wi-Fi was giving off 1,800 milligauss of EMF, and, it was affecting their 2-year-old, but she didn't want to hear that because we didn't tell her it was demons. She didn't even have us back for evidence review,
Yeah. So, or the cribs right next to the circuit board.
It was on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, it's like, Wi-Fi. Your kid's crying, or you're having all these issues at night, and here you are.
Yeah, and then also, trying to explain people the difference between residual and intelligent. Well, you're hearing the footsteps because it's residual, having the same time every day, or often enough that it's not something that's trying to get you. Nobody's going to jump out and possess you. It's a recording the environment.
And I always love that question, like we go to residential cases or even businesses. Like we just did a government building nearby, and they wanted us to do a public reveal for all the people and the employees in the building because they wanted people to be aware, which I thought was cool. And, it gave us a good chance. I think we had like 24 people show up, and they were asking questions and stuff like that. And the first question is it haunted? Yeah. And I was like, no. And they're like, well, you have all these EVPs and, stuff like that. Why isn't it haunted? And I said, because I believe I need to come back 3, 4, 5 times and consistently get stuff. We may have just got lucky the one night. Right. And we were the first team ever to investigate. Maybe they said their messages and now they're gone. I don't know.
Right.
So I don't want to tell you the place is haunted unless I can, validate and back it up and support the claims. And, with all the other bullshit and all the other stuff going on in the paranormal, I'm even more of a stickler right now because everybody just rules shit as paranormal or everything's just demonic or everything's that. So I feel like me as someone who has a team and a voice, I need to stand up against that and say, hey, just because one thing happened doesn't make it paranormal.
Right.
We got to find out the reason.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I agree with you. Unfortunately, there's people out there putting out bullshit too on purpose to further their own agendas. And we won't get into that big topic we were talking about for recording.
Oh, we could have a long list. I know. A long list of people.
Yeah, but I don't even want to give them the airtime, to be honest with you. I don't. They're just not worth it. But yeah, unfortunately, they're it's like any other community. And the majority of the people that like listen to my show here they're not even in the paranormal world like we are. You know, we kind of get tunnel vision, I feel like, sometimes, because everything on our feeds on Facebook and stuff is all paranormal, and so that's all we see all the time. When, you know, in the normal world, if you want to call it that, you know, there's most people that, you know, they listen to this show for entertainment and, you know, to be informed because they're curious about investigations and stuff. But I kind of try to remind myself that we're immersed in it, so it's easier to get tunnel vision. That there, you know, this is a bigger issue than what it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, it is. To me, it's a bigger issue, just because I feel like the people that have put in the years, and I'm not even one of the people that have put in, you know, a lot of years. You know, you've put in more, John's put in more. I just feel like it's kind of a slap in the face to them. You know, that's what gets me.
Yeah.
It's just
and gaslighting people and fucking over locations and things like that. Yeah. It's I'm with you. I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't stand up against it. I'm just saying we also need to realize the general public doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, I get it. That's why I said it's that hit or miss line, you know.
Yeah.
Anybody listening, you know, I don't want you to like hop on board and like fight a battle that doesn't really mean too much for you.
Yeah.
But, you know, definitely just keep an eye out and just watch who you surround yourself with, or, you know, support, just because some of these people aren't the greatest people. So
yeah, and my biggest thing is to caution people, like you're saying, they're not the greatest people. We unfortunately have charlatans who will take advantage of you and take your money if they can, fake psychics. We have pedophiles that have been called out a lot here recently.
People that have dressed up as police officers and pulled people over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the type of shit that has happened.
Yeah. And so don't just, if you need somebody to come into your house, make sure you're doing your due diligence on the team that you're bringing into your house to help you. Or if you're going on a public ghost hunt, you know, and you take your children with you, watch your children, because some of these people that are putting on some of these events are sexual predators. And we're trying to weed them out now. But just, you know, just because you've seen somebody on TV doesn't mean they're trustworthy. You know, so it's a sick world, unfortunately. And it goes over to the paranormal too. You know, I think the general public would just think that, you know, oh, it's an innocent, you know, ghost hunt, whatever. But yeah, you just need to be skeptical of the people that you go to events like that with. You know, you're sitting in the dark with somebody, like I said, with your kids or your teenagers or even yourself, you know. And just make sure that you stay on guard. Yeah, be mindful and be with reputable, respectable people. But
yeah, my biggest advice is, and Eric, I just posted it literally right before we came on the show. I've made a big long post, is do your research on the teams.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, even when I take a phone call, I may not be the right team for you. Maybe John's team is. If I'm not the right team, I'll help you find the team that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because to me, at the end of the day, I want you to get the help. You truly believe something's going on, I want you to have the help.
Yeah.
So, you know, you won't ever hurt my feelings if you call. And I'm sure, Eric, if anybody called you and said, I really need help, I'm sure they were in Maryland, you pass them along. You know what I mean? Because to me, it's not about it. Like, to me, it's not a competition.
Right.
Like, John has stuff going on in his life. He goes, hey, can I borrow a member or two to help out on a case? I said, yeah, John. And then I took a case, you know, the government case. And I asked John, I said, hey, can you come along and help? Because John has experience in it.
Yeah.
You know, so why not use your resources and help each other out?
Right.
You know what I mean? To me, that's more paranormal community or unity, is like supporting each other when you really need it.
Yeah.
Not just saying it and saying, oh, I support you. No, like we actually back it up. We go and help.
Right. And also, if you want a team to come in and help you because you're having issues, don't ever pay anybody. That's ridiculous. They're just trying to take you for your money, and they're going to bullshit you, and they're not going to be honest people at all.
We had a team or a location. It was in Pennsylvania, and it was some lady's house, and we went up, and she goes, okay, so how much are you? I said, what do you mean, how much am I?
Yeah.
And she goes, well, we had a team in here before, and they were $150 just to walk through the door.
Wow.
I said, what? I said, $150 just to walk through the door. I said, how much did you pay? And they said like $500 for the investigation. I said, are you kidding me? Like, dude, there's no way. I couldn't even ask that. Like, people have handed me $20 as a donation, and I try to give it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel bad. Like, even them suggesting giving me money, I'm like, I don't do it for that. I do it because the way I view it is, you know, me being a single dad of 2 kids is, what if I wasn't in the paranormal and all that? What if I needed help? And I called you, Eric, and was like, hey, my kids are terrified of their house.
Right.
And I'm on a budget. I'm not rich by any means. And you told me it's $200. Well, now my kids are still terrified, and I don't know how to help them because I don't have the money for it.
Right.
You know, that's the way I view it. I try to view it as what would I do, or what if I needed the help?
Yeah. And also, it's ridiculous to pay somebody to come in and ultimately give you evidence of something we can't prove as well, you know, because when money's involved, that's when people get shady and they'll start making things up to show you, well, for your $500, we caught this, you know, type of shit. And
well, for 500 more, we can come back and get rid of it.
Right. Yeah. Next time we'll bring our psychic with us and she'll get rid of it. Yeah. So just precautionary stuff for people listening who aren't.
And background checks.
Yeah.
Background check. If the team you called does not have it, I'm not saying don't use them, but I would be very skeptical because you don't know who's running it. I know my team. I know John's team. We're all nationally background checked. We're not even locally. We're nationally background checked. So if somebody on my team committed a crime in, you know, California, I would know about it.
Yeah.
Because they don't go on anything until I have that background check. And I carry that binder. I have a book bag I take everywhere. And every case we go on, I literally take the binder out and I go like this. And I say, if you want a copy, let me know. I'll be happy to email it over to you.
Yeah, that's good too. That is good as well. I've been part of a team, but not, I don't know. I've always been a lone wolf because I would rather network with different teams. And then, if they want my help, or I bring a case to them to say, hey, you want to come in and help me with this case or whatever, I'd rather do that. There's just too much of like not saying anything about your team or John's or anybody else's, because y'all's teams seem to work pretty well, but there's so much dynamics in teams where, you know, you have a leader and, you know, some of those people power trip because they're the leader and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, nah, I don't want anybody telling me how to investigate or what to do, or, you know. Also, it came out of when I tried to join teams when I was younger. Well, you don't have any experience. Well, this is before the TV shows and shit. How the hell am I supposed to have experience if you don't let me join your team or, like, you know, apprentice with your team? So I said, screw it. I'll make my own team. And I think a lot of people do that as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, the only reason I started my own team was because of COVID.
Yeah.
The lady shut down. She was in her 70s and she said, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So when I told her I wanted to do it, she said, hey, you were on my team for 6 years and, I want to you're a great person to pass the torch along to. So I still have her number. I call her anytime I need her. She's helped us on a case before, the one actually where somebody paid. She came out and gave a hand just because there was some weird stuff that I couldn't explain going on. Having her there, I just felt like was more of like a comfort thing, but also had a little more experience as well. So it worked out well. But we just took a lady. She emailed us. I put out not like really like an ad, but kind of like an ad, and just said, hey, we're looking for another member or two. Just need you to be dedicated and willing to learn. And she literally emailed us and said, I've never been on an investigation. I've always been intrigued. I liked it. Or I like some of the shows. I like all that. Took her to Gettysburg and she had this crazy experience. And she's like, all right, when's the next one? But I gave her the chance. Like you said, some people won't. So, but I'd rather have somebody that's new, that's willing to learn, than somebody who's maybe older, who has been on team. And then, like you said, you have that ego power trip where they're like, well, I shut my team down, but I still want to be your leader. And it's like, that's not how the dynamics work. And I try to keep my ego out of it. I try to say, I'm the founder, but I made somebody else the director of the team. I make him handle all the stuff and I let him be the head voice because I don't want the power trip. I want to make sure we all run smoothly. I made my team member, Debbie, I made her the tech manager. I said hey, you handle this. I try to divvy it up and I want everybody's opinion. We do every couple of months, we do a meeting and we sit down. What can we do better? What can we not? Because I don't think I'm better than anyone. Plus, I don't have all the ideas. It's the paranormal. I go with the flow and I try different experiments just like you have.
Yeah, and I think different people's experiences and fortes come out in different situations as well, in different locations and things. So, depending on the history of the place, you might get better responses from a female because it's a child spirit or another female, or even in the 1800s, 1800s, you didn't hear of men going into women's bedrooms. The husband and wife slept in separate bedrooms. Well, if you're a man going into that woman's bedroom and you're trying to connect with her, well, why should she talk to you? She's not supposed to have men in her bedroom, and just simple cultural things like that. So I think it takes everybody. It takes a little bit of everybody, and everybody's experiences are different, and everybody has different ideas that may work differently in different locations.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like we have one of my team members, Angel. Her sister is special needs, and she's a school teacher. So a lot of childlike cases, anywhere there's reported child activity, if we just put her in a room and we walk out and it's just her, we will come back, and I'm not even kidding you, have like 100 EVPs just because like you said, I think they feel comfortable. Like she deals with that on a daily basis. Like, I agree. Just like I think, that's why I always rotate my team. Like I'll have 2 women go in, I'll have 2 men go in, and then I'll do a man and a woman. And I'll like rotate us in just because I don't know what the experience will be.
Yeah.
Will it work? Will it not? I know when we went to Fort Mifflin, we took a DJ set and we blasted a reenactment battle. And this was with John's team, and somebody thought they saw like a shadow run across the fields. And we stopped the thing and we thought we heard like a gunshot. You know what I mean? Like we try different things because we don't know what will work.
Right. Yeah, and it's hard to recreate any of it, which makes it shit for scientific study.
Oh, it sucks. It's so cool when you see something and you're like, or especially like shadows, because a lot of them are gone just as fast as you see it.
Yeah.
So you're like, how can I even recreate that when I saw it for about a half a second?
Yeah.
But I try. I give it a shot.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that going on at the Night House lately because it's with us becoming in fresh and nobody's ever investigated it, or other than me and Austin and me and Sin, kind of mini investigations. So catching stuff on video and stuff, I'm constantly trying to debunk, and we're seeing stuff and hearing stuff, and so half my time on the weekends is running around the house trying to debunk things like doors closing on their own and shit like that. So, that's why like the videos that I put out from the Night House, any of that stuff I've scrutinized the hell and back before I'll ever put it out in public. And there's probably another 10 videos I haven't put out because I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They could go one way or the other. But I think it's better to be overly cautious and overly skeptical than, like we were talking about, putting everything out there.
Yeah. I mean, the dragging video was really cool that you have, where it sounds like the chair furniture dragging.
Yeah.
Like that one's cool because like I know nobody's there. Like, like I know nothing's there to like mess with it. So it's just cool to catch it. But it's rewarding when you catch something like that too. You're like, yes.
Yeah. Well, it also validates and backs up, like, not just of the Night House, but for y'all investigating. Whenever you see something like a shadow figure that you don't catch on film, or you hear a noise that you don't catch, but then you do catch something on film that is similar, it just validates, okay, I'm not crazy. I really did see that, or I really did hear that. Because we hear some of the similar noises like that in the Night House. And I've been to other locations that I investigated that, you'll hear a voice when you're like John, famously, when he's peeing, for whatever reason, they like to mess with him when he's not recording. But when you're not recording, you hear voices and things. So it's just validating when you get those same type of voices on recordings and same types of noises.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to the John thing. I was there on one of them examples. We were at it was the Samuel Miller Mansion in Columbia, PA, and I was in the room with the owner and one of my team members. John goes to the bathroom, and all of a sudden he's like, the door's shaking, all this. He comes in the room and he's like ready to smack me. He's like, "Why are you messing with me?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Why'd you lock the door?" I was like, "I can't lock the door. Like the lock is only from the inside, and it's one you have to like flick up or down."
Yeah.
And he is like, "Dude, you messed with me." I'm like, "Whatever." So he goes home and he plays the audio. And you can actually hear, like, midstream, sorry to say it, but midstream, you can actually hear the lock actually flick and actually click down.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You're not going to believe this." Sent it to me. I was like, "I told you I was in the other room. Like, I really didn't mess with you." Now, I am a prankster. I will mess around a little bit. But on this instance, I really didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, you're the only investigator I've ever heard that 3 or 4 times, you have 3 or 4 stories about using the bathroom and things messing with you. I'm like, you just need to hold your bladder, man, and not, not.
I've only had one myself. It was actually in an apartment building, and we were just going to help this lady, and we were just doing a walkthrough, and I went to use her bathroom, and all of a sudden I heard a female whisper in my ear. No clue what she said.
Yeah.
All I know is I definitely jumped because, I mean, come on, it's like a private time, It's like, why in this moment? So that was the only time I've ever had it happen, and I hope it never happens again.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're in there to do your business. You're not looking for anything paranormal to happen.
And I didn't have a recorder running. Like I didn't think like she was so clear. Like I heard it. I'm like, I know a recorder would have caught it, but at the same time, why do you take one with you?
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah. For me, it's when I'm getting ready to go to bed in a haunted location that they like to mess with me, or right after I'm going to sleep, all the time. Multiple locations. I've had stuff happen to me when I've either been asleep, it wakes me up, or like I said, right before I'm getting ready to go to sleep, and I'll be like, look, you've had your chance. I just investigated for 8 hours. Like, I'm going to bed. Leave me alone. Yeah. Why do you want to, mess around now?
Especially when it's a quiet night and then you lay down and shit happens. You're like, why? Like, I just had 8 hours of this and you said nothing.
Well, it's also after you turn off all the recording equipment too.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're ready to go to bed. I'm not one of those people that's going to record myself all night on camera, sleeping, because ain't nobody want to hear me snore for 6-7 hours. Like, like I'm just.
That's the good thing about the wired DVR is it doesn't have sound. So if we leave it running, we don't have to listen to it.
Yeah.
But the drop recorder we do, and that kind of sucks. But
I like to talk in my sleep too. So.
Yeah, but we just had that happen. When we did 2 nights in the Bell Mansion, and then we did one at Beale Manor. At the Bell Mansion, they have like base station set up in the basement area, and where like the morgue is, you like walk through the basement door, and we were all getting ready to go to bed, and there was like 2 rooms next to each other. So we're here, and then like the basement doors over here. And Doug, I know you've seen him on the podcast a couple times.
Yeah.
From my team. He was gonna sleep in the room, and they have all these toe tags hanging up. And every time the air would blow, you would hear like the toe tags hitting. And I was like, I can't sleep in this room. Like, I'm never gonna go to sleep. Like, I gotta have a pretty quiet room, or else like I'm super distracted. Like, I'll be up all night. So Doug's like making his bed, and I'm like sitting there. There's one sink. I'm like brushing my teeth, and all of a sudden I hear, holy shit! And I turn around, and literally the basement door that leads into the morgue is literally creeping open. And then I'm like, all right, whatever. So I was like, Doug, are you good? And he's like, yeah. He turns out the light, whatever. And like, I walk literally around the room, and then I had an air mattress. As soon as I lay down on the air mattress, all of a sudden I hear nope, and all of a sudden you see Doug turn the corner. And Doug's like 6'4", so it's like really funny. He has his air mattress in one hand and his pillow and the blankets in the other, and he's like, do you guys have room for me in here? And I'm like, why? And he goes, the effing door closed. And literally we walked in there. I was like, no way. So I walked back in there with him, and literally the door shut on its own. And he was like, yep, nope. And of course we didn't have the camera running because we shut it off.
Yeah.
Why did we want to leave it run for 48 hours?
Right.
So, yep. So that was one. And then Beale Manor, I got a funny story. So it was a guy that owned like a music shop. If anybody knows and know the history, definitely go check it out. But then it turned into an orphanage. Well, I'm pretty good about sleeping in, haunted places for the most part. But this one, man, was different. It got me. It got me good. I lay in the bed, and come to find out, I find out that it's the lady that like runs the house. It was one of her room, orphanage. But anyway, I'm laying in the bed, and I'm literally just laying there like this, and I'm tired. It's like 4 a.m. This is after 72 hours of investigating, because we did Bell Mansion, and Beale Manor all back to back night.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a lot.
The paranormal hangover is real. Yeah.
Dude, and then I had to drive. That was Fremont, Ohio, which is over by Cleveland, and then I had to drive all the way to Maryland the next day. Yes. Wow. Very much so.
Yeah.
But I'm laying there, and all of a sudden I feel 3 fingers come across my neck down, and I'm in the room by myself, and I literally froze. Like, yeah, I'm an investigator. Yeah, I'm looking for stuff like that. But after 72 hours of investigating, I don't want to touch the paranormal. I just want to sleep. So all you hear is on the recorder is F this, not tonight. And I roll over, I throw the blanket over my head, and I just sleep like that. And I wake up the next morning and the blanket wasn't like on my head. But yeah, I literally rolled over and I fell asleep just like that. I was like, no, like there's no way this happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, it happened. We actually had, they have a kid in the, well, I think it's a kid based off the stories. They call him the biter at the Beale Manor. And they had It was they took in everybody for orphanage, but they had a special need kid that was documented there. And they said he would spend a lot of time like working on wood shop stuff because they would teach at this orphanage. They would teach you like life skills, so that way you could go out and be a carpenter or do something, productive for society. So that's what he liked to do. And one of the guys actually left, and he had a huge mark. With our friends from Arizona, we investigated, and he actually had the mark, and it looked like somebody literally bit him.
Wow.
At there. So
yeah,
can't prove it, but it sure looked like a bite mark.
Well, I mean, I also, would that person bite themselves or have somebody bite them and go through that just to?
I would say that, but it's certain people like you really trust. Like,
right.
For you, it's Austin. Would you say Austin bit himself,
no.
Type thing?
No.
Yeah, then that's how we are with them. So we were with them both nights at Bell Mansion, and then we went there. So if they bit themselves, it had to be a week ago. I mean, the bite mark would have been seen, and it was like on their thigh, so like it would have been seen. It was July, and like I told you, it was like 110 degrees. It was so hot.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite? I know this is always a loaded question, but you have a favorite location that you like to go back to over and over?
So we just did that government case, and they asked us to host some public ghost hunts. So we're in the works of working that out. Not that again, there's much to work out, but trying to work around all my people's schedule.
Yeah.
Or my whole team there, and then of course they have their events. So basically, it's just a local historical society. They have a couple buildings that we investigated. So they're cool because they're so new. Nobody's ever investigated them. One of the houses is actually from 1788.
Wow.
So that's really cool. So that one I want to get back into just because we call it so much, and I just don't understand what happened
there. Yeah.
Because one time in a location, it's hard to say what exactly is going on.
Right.
For instance, I'm sitting at the table at that house. It's the 1788 house. And I'm just sitting there, kitchen table, and I'm hearing kids crying. Now, this is at like 3 a.m.
Wow.
Why? Yeah. Like there is places around there, but not like where kids would be. Like there's a local bar across the street.
Yeah.
And then there's a local high school behind it. Like, which kid's going to be there 2:33 a.m. crying? You know what I mean? Like, it just isn't logical. And then it was cool because we caught on like 3 different recorders throughout the house. So it was like one of them cool things.
Yeah.
So that's definitely like favorite just because it's unknown. I'm trying to think there was one that we used to do. Oh, there's one that I really want to get back into. It's called Elk Landing. It's over here in Elkton, Maryland. You can look into it. It was during you'll like it because of the history buff.
Yeah.
But Elk Landing was actually there, part of the American Revolution. Wow. And then ended up being part of the Civil War and so on and so forth. So the history was there, and that's actually the first time, minus my grandma, that was the first investigation where I actually saw like a full-blown apparition. Yeah. And it was just a little boy. It was a little boy that like went running like, I don't know, man, probably like 3 feet from me, just happy as can be, had a little ball, and just vanished in like 3 seconds. So then I told like the leader at the time of the team, I said, hey, like, you're not going to believe what I saw. So I like explained it, and she goes, all right, well, come here. So we go inside, and they have a book, and this was a historical location, kind of like the Night House, but it's actually ran through like, it's called Cecil County government actually runs it. So they go check this out. So they actually pull up, and it was a death certificate of a boy who was bit by a poisonous snake that died on the property. Wow. I had no clue. I never saw the history book. I never saw, because we were hosting public ghost hunts there. And I was first one. It was my first time ever there, so nobody wanted to tell me what they fought before.
Yeah.
So they go in, and I see the death record, man. It was like a 5-year-old kid bit by a snake, poison.
Wow.
Died on the property. I was like, what are the chances?
Yeah.
I saw this, and to have the record behind it.
That validation is always awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you get information you didn't know, or the location didn't know or didn't tell you, and they know they didn't tell you. Would you rather know the stories and the history before going in or not?
I think it depends.
Yeah.
For me personally, residentials I try to like look up more.
Yeah.
Because I feel like on a residential there's more. I don't want to say like to lose, but some of these people you get calls really scared. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure I try to help them the best I can with all the ammunition. Now like the place like Bell Mansion, we were there for 2 nights. So the first night I didn't want to know. And then the second night, the people actually gave us a tour and told us about the location. Because I wanted to see if the evidence compared night 1 to night 2.
Right.
With me knowing nothing and me knowing it. Did I catch the same man's voice? Did I catch the same female? What are the, coincides with each other? That's what I wanted to know. So it was a little experiment to myself. So
I always like to know the history and the people.
not even, and my motto has become, we don't investigate hauntings, we investigate stories of haunting. Yeah. So I always try to stay unbiased by thinking, okay, well, this is the stories of what happened to these people. Doesn't necessarily mean what we're going to experience. And I don't even like going off of their stories to investigate, because I just want to investigate wide open and see what we get, Right. But I want to know the stories to see that, okay, well, if I hear this voice or these footsteps in one certain place, or I see somebody in one certain place, and it correlates to what already happened to them, then to me that adds to the evidence. But
yeah,
I always like to ask people, because some people like to know the history and the stories, and some people like to go in completely blind every time. And I can respect it. I see either way, and I respect either way.
Yeah, I have a couple team members that literally don't want to know.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, most of the time I want to know. Plus, with me being the founder, I get all the phone calls. Right. So a lot of times I hear a lot of the stories before we even go. So I don't really have a choice. That's why the Bell Mansion was cool, because I had 2 nights. So the first night I didn't have to know, and then the second night I could know. So I got I got to go both ways and experience both sides of the perspective, like you're saying. So I can see why people don't like it, and I can see why people do. So.
Yeah. I just, for me, I guess the way my ADD brain works, I can kind of formulate a plan better without going in blind. Like if I know, the claims and things. And like I said, not even to validate those claims, because that's not my, objective. My objective is to go and investigate and see what we catch. But I also like to know names and things, so that if you're not getting anything, like a lot of times we don't, then I can break out somebody's name, and I can start rattling off names and see if you get, somebody to respond that way. But yeah, I don't think either way is right or wrong. I just think it's everybody's preference of how you want to investigate.
I tell everybody, experiment with both. Go in one investigation not knowing, go in the next knowing everything, and see which one you like better, and then just go from there.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on a team, like you being lone wolf, it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it's not going to affect 7 other people like it would with me.
Yeah.
From, whereas me, I'm got to be a little more selective, because like I said, some people don't want to know.
Yeah. Saying that, though, one of the funnest investigations I've done in a long time, me and Austin put out a documentary, a little mini doc about it, the Commodore Hotel, our first filming that we did together. And we didn't know any claims about that place. So there's hardly any history you can find, and nobody really investigated it. And so we kind of went in blind there, but we caught quite a few things, and it was a fun night that way. So I can see it both ways too. So do y'all have anything special planned for spooky season coming up? We're at the end of August here recording this, and so September, October.
This weekend, the weekend of Labor Day, we'll be at Pennhurst. So that's a little fun one coming up. We're investigating with 2 other teams that are really like-minded and like us. Then October, we're going to it's called Ramblewood. It's near us. It used to be an old plantation house, and now it's actually Camp Ramblewood. It's actually like a summer camp for local youth and teens and stuff like that. They host events. But that house is old, and it's really cool. Because it's up on our YouTube. I actually caught a shadow running across this field, and I watched it with my own eyes. I'm the only one outside, and I would literally watch it. Boom. And the path it takes actually runs to the basement, because the basement you actually have to go from outside. There's no way through the house. And it actually runs to where there's a tunnel, and the tunnel's still there for the Underground Railroad. Now they just filled it in, and they just have the cutout where you can actually look down where the hole was.
Yeah.
But and the tunnel ran out to the Susquehanna River. I think it leads out to the Susquehanna River. So that was pretty cool to physically see that go. And that doesn't happen often. I know I've told a couple stories with shadows, but I've been over 100 heading towards 200 cases.
Right.
And I've only seen 6 to 7 real full body apparitions. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that often. You're talking 3%?
Right.
It doesn't happen. So that one's cool. And then November, we're going back with John's team, and we're doing Fort Mifflin Part 2. So we did last year Part 1. This year we're doing Part 2, and we're going to do a couple more experiments, kind of like we did with the speakers, and see if we can kind of recreate what we had the first time.
Yeah, I wish I could make it up there for that. I know y'all invited me, and I appreciate it, but
dude,
with the night house, I just don't think it's going to be in the cards this year.
I know. I think Stevie's coming up. We invited her, and I think she's going to make the trip. I hope. I mean, I definitely want to investigate with you guys. I was talking to my team earlier today about coming to the Night House, but having you actually investigate with us.
Yeah,
Just because I want to investigate and hang out and like, I talk to everybody online, but I actually want to like investigate with everybody.
Right.
But if we do it, I told the team too, and they all agreed. We want to make it like a 4 or 5 day trip. Like we want to go check out 1 or 2 other places too.
Yeah.
That way, and plus all the places. We could always ask you, hey, what's nearby type thing.
Yeah.
And just make a little trip out of it as like a team bonding exercise too. So
yeah, there is definitely a difference between up north where you live and down here. I mean, of course, there's 100 years more of history in New England, but there's more. Y'all have more of the Revolutionary War stuff, and I know there is some, of course, with Antietam and Gettysburg and things. There's some huge Civil War stuff up there, but a lot of what you run into down here, majority of it's going to be Civil War type stuff, and a lot with the South, it was a lot more steeped in the the Confederacy and the Civil War and that type history. But there's some amazing places around here and some amazing history. Some amazing places just to go do the historical tours as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's why, like, for Maryland, where I am, I'm like 30 minutes from the Mason-Dixon line. So, like, I'm right on the line where there's some houses here, like I've investigated, where, the left side of the road is Confederates, right side of the road is Union. And, they had people trying to hunt the people across the way and vice versa. So, like, it's one of them things that was cool. And I don't want to say cool in a bad way, but, like, cool because being a mile apart, you would think they would all be the same way.
Right.
But really, they weren't the same way. Some of them didn't approve of slavery and other things. So, and then, like you said, we have the American Revolution. The New England and all that had the whole witch trial stuff like that.
Right.
So you kind of got that kind of bled a little bit down the coast, not all the way to Maryland, but kind of still hear about some of that stuff. So we got a good little mixture of everything.
Yeah. It's just a different type of. In a way, it's just a different type of history, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And it's still steeped in history just as much as New England. But yeah, I'd love to have y'all. I'd love to investigate with y'all, and I could show y'all around to all the historic places and show you to some of the places that you definitely need to investigate.
Oh yeah, man. Always down to check out new places.
Yeah.
Especially places. That's like something I want to do. You asked me earlier, residential stuff like that. Ever since I started, I did residentials and like local businesses. So doing a Pennhurst, doing a Fort Mifflin, they're like cool and exciting because it's something different for me.
Right.
So going and checking out a different place is awesome. So I'm always down with suggestions.
Yeah, I think also it's not having to be as serious and on point as you have to do, like when you're dealing with families and things. You can kind of let loose, going to Fort Mifflin or coming to the Night House or something. It's a little more of a fun hangout type of investigation.
Yeah, you make a stupid joke. It's not like, oh crap, I said that.
Right.
It's more like, ha ha, Eric just laughed for the last 10 minutes because I said a stupid joke.
Right.
That's kind of nice to like unwind and not be so serious.
Yeah, and have fun with your friends.
Oh, absolutely.
So I know y'all have a website that people can go check out, aboveandbelowparanormal.com, and I'm sure they can find you on all the social medias.
Yeah, really, Facebook's the only one that I really answer. We have a TikTok, but I can't even tell you the last time we posted on it. The TikTok thing was cool to like research some places and like check out other teams, but like I can't get down with it. Like the investigations are so bad. And sorry to anybody on TikTok that's like really serious, but the investigations are bad.
And people can go watch some of your videos on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, we have a few up there, not too many. I'm really selective about what we post. One, just because I'm one of the biggest critics about myself.
Yeah.
I can have John, you, and 6 other people tell me, hey, that's a really good piece of evidence. And I'll still be like, are you sure? So it's how I am. I just don't want to put out anything fake.
Yeah.
Or, especially like we talked about earlier with all the bullshit going on in the paranormal. Like, it's really hard to like be a little less critical of myself.
Yeah. But also, I think after you've been an investigator for as long as we both have, I think you don't have anything to prove to anybody anyway, by putting out evidence. I mean, it's not anything to prove to anybody. I don't care. I'm not in some pissing match with another team. My evidence is better than yours, or I don't care,
And I don't want to get paid. Like, a lot of people that post a lot of this shit on YouTube is they're looking for money gain. And I'm not. Like, again, I didn't start the team to make money.
Yeah.
Would it be great? Sure. Who wouldn't like to get paid to investigate? But it's not why I started it. So to me, it doesn't make a difference.
Well, thanks for coming on, Brandon. Enjoyed the conversation.
All right, I got a question for you before we go.
Yeah.
What is a place you've always wanted to check out anywhere in the world? It doesn't have to be just the U.S. Like, what's one place you really like to check out?
That's a lot of places.
I always get crap for my answers, so that's why I asked you first.
if I could go anywhere, I'd say one of the places would definitely be the White House, just because of the people that have gone through there over the years. Not just presidents, but dignitaries from all over the world, famous people,
fires, everything else.
Yeah, and the being burned down during the Civil War and rebuilt, and all these different things in the history of the place is just, it's one of those buildings that it would be hard to compare any other building in the world. There's not many other buildings in the world that compare to the history that the White House has with the type of people and the historical figures that have been through there. So I think it would be amazing to spend a weekend in there and spend the night and investigate. I think it'd be.
I take one night. I don't even need a whole weekend.
Yeah.
Just to have the pleasure of saying, "Hey, you're the first team in or the first people." That'd be awesome.
But yeah, that would be the one for sure. What now? You got me curious. What yours is? You get a lot of shit for it.
Yeah. Well, it's just because people are like, "You're insensitive," and I actually think it's the opposite. Yeah. Because I don't think it's insensitive. I think not exploring this place is kind of like a disservice to these people, and it's like Auschwitz or like a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Because what was done was so wrong, and just a genocide on that level. I just feel like if somebody really had a message that they really wanted to give to a loved one, that would be the place. And and just going over and like America was involved in freeing a lot of people and all that. Being an American, what if I came over and like that was a relief to them,
Right.
And not even just American, but just take different ethnicities and take each one and just put them in there as like a social experiment and have everybody as a paranormal investigator and maybe from somebody from Japan, somebody from Germany, and put us all there and just see the different types of activity you get with people in the different areas. I think would be really cool just to like see what happens.
Yeah. And try to help them move on. So hopefully they're not stuck or sticking around.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not insensitive to me. I just, as a person that really likes history, I think it's a way to really get the history told.
Yeah.
So,
well, those are the same people that are exploiting Lizzie Borden and the Villisca Axe murder house where the whole family was killed, in places like that. So, whatever.
Everybody's sensitive about something, so I got to be careful.
Well, especially nowadays. It's ridiculous. But, yeah. All right, Brandon. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll definitely chat soon, and hopefully have you and your team at the Night House. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We'll work it out.
All right, everybody. Y'all stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to The Unseen Paranormal. Join me next Wednesday with a brand new guest, and please rate, review, share, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. This helps more people discover the show. You can connect with me over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or join us in the Unseen Paranormal Lounge group on Facebook. Until next time, remember, some of the scariest things are unseen. You have come to the end of the line. Whoa. I can feel you as you pass the other side.